Welcome to Break the Cycle with Bethany Dotson, the podcast for high achieving professional women who struggle with codependency, attracting emotionally unavailable partners, and who repeat dysfunctional patterns in love. I'm your host, Bethany Dotson, and if you want to learn more about how to break your cycle in love, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and be the first to know when a new episode drops. I'll see you inside.
I want to explore the true price tag of ignoring red flags. I speak with a lot of women who tell me that they believe that if they just learn the signs and learn to recognize the signs sooner next time in the next relationship that they'll be okay. And or they tell me that the last relationship that they just exited and they were at most of the women that I work with are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. So they're midlife. They was so bad, was so unavailable or so narcissistic that she has for sure now learned her lesson and she for sure is 100% confident that she's not going to make that same mistake again in the future. And what I always uncover and find out is that all of these women thought that years ago. They thought that they had learned their lesson. They thought and told themselves, if I just learn to recognize the signs sooner, then I'll be good 10 years ago. And they still got into another unhealthy, unfulfilling relationship. So I want to explore the price tag of what ignoring red flags is really costing you because a lot of people think that it's just costing them their emotional well-being in the sense of a romantic relationship and in their confidence levels and in their self-esteem and their self-worth to attract a healthy partner. But I'm going to convey that it goes a lot deeper than just your romantic relationships. Ignoring red flags doesn't just stay in your romantic life. It often bleeds and impacts every area of your life in a really, really negative way. And I'm going to explore those ways here in a second. And I'm also going to bust myths on a lot of people think that I just need to learn all of the red flags on how to spot a narcissist and I'll be good. I need to do a little bit more research on codependency or being an empath, or I need to learn how to spot the signs of a narcissist sooner. And I need to learn what those are, or I need to go back and get back into therapy and talk about my ex again and unpack this relationship and process this relationship. And then we're going to process my childhood trauma because I know that's related because I've already been in therapy for 5 years. But it happened again. So something still isn't working. I want to bust myths around why researching more and doing more psychoanalysis of your past is not going to help you stop this pattern. So let's first look at what are the true costs of ignoring red flags. So the first thing that you need to understand is that ignoring red flags is not a matter of learning more research or talking about the past more and gaining clarity. You can get great insights and you can gain clarity from that. But ignoring red flags is a deeper psychological issue based in unhealed trauma. When you ignore red flags, in many ways, what you're really doing is people pleasing. And people pleasing is one of the four common trauma responses. We have fight, flight, or freeze, which most people have heard of before. But there's another fourth response that is not widely talked about. People don't write about it. You don't see it published very often. And that's called fawning. And fawning is usually a really common trait that I see with people who have had complex trauma or childhood emotional trauma. And that could be a parent was really hard on them growing up, a parent was an alcoholic, the parent may not have been directly abusive to that person. The parent was emotionally unavailable, the parent was absent, the caregiver was absent. They didn't get the care that they needed the emotional support that they needed as a child, and their parent may have had so many issues that they wound up caretaking the parent. They wound up wanting to help the parent out of a tough situation. They ended up taking on more responsibility as a child than they needed to. And that is classified as complex trauma. And what happens when you experience those types of things is that your brain, it gets wired a certain way. And when your brain gets wired a certain way, your body also, your nervous system gets wired a certain way because your brain and your body are deeply, deeply intricately connected. And this is one of the core reasons why talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, does not work for most trauma survivors, because we know in research that when you're talking about the past, or you're reliving the past and telling the story of a past event that hurt you, you are simply firing and wiring the same neural pathways in your brain, and your body is receiving the same neural response. So nothing is really changing. So when you have this experience in childhood, maybe you were caretaking a parent, maybe you had an unavailable parent, you don't have the brain development yet to recognize that that's not your fault. And that doesn't have anything to do with your worth. And what happens when you are living this experience, all you understand is that that's normal for you. And you start to unconsciously, which is key, unconsciously take on the meaning that you're not enough in some way, or that there may be something wrong with you, or you may be different in some way. And how this plays out as you get older in your adult life is that you tend to work harder, or believe that you need to work harder to feel successful, or you need to work harder than other people. I work a lot with women who are overachievers, meaning they work really hard in their careers and they also work really hard to keep the wrong relationships going. But they have this perception that everybody else has it easier than I do. I have to, for whatever reason, I seem to suffer more than other people. When you have this patterning from your childhood, what happens is that when you get into relationship scenarios, like an intimate partner, where the emotional stakes are high enough, where you could be met with rejection or abandonment, your unconscious programming and that trauma programming from your childhood wants to keep you safe, wants you to have your needs met. And so what happens is that when you experience the intuitive sense in your body that a something doesn't feel right, or that a red flag is happening, but I'm not really sure, I don't have enough evidence yet to back that up, what happens is that your need to feel accepted and to be liked and to feel a sense of belonging is going to override that intuitive sense. And the irony is that most people who get into unhealthy relationships that have prior trauma are actually very, very perceptive. A lot of people, they have great empathic tendencies. Their emotional batteries are bigger, so they sense things and they're more intuitive than the average person typically. So they usually sense red flags and sense things early on, but because they have an unconscious, deep, deep desire and core need to feel accepted and belong, and to feel like they're not separate from everybody else any longer, they override that. And what happens is that this becomes a pervasive pattern of overriding uncomfortable feelings. It becomes a survival pattern. So ignoring red flags, in so many words, is about you trying to get your needs met, but you're doing it in a way that is unhealthy and it's toxic, but it's the only way that your brain and your nervous system know how to do it. It becomes your programming. And so the real price tag of doing this is that it causes you to have to really doubt yourself. It causes you to not know how to trust your own judgment. And the reason why that happens is that the longer you go into a toxic relationship, whether it's with someone who's back and on and again, off again, you're not sure, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? gaslighting, manipulation. Maybe you were with somebody who was verbally abusive to you, who gaslit you all the time. That's emotional abuse. The more you go into a type of relationship like that, the more trauma you experience. And the more trauma you experience, the more that anchors that conditioning in your brain and in your nervous system from before when you were younger. And that causes you to doubt your abilities and doubt your potential and doubt what you're capable of and doubt your own judgments. And this doesn't stop at romantic relationships. I work a lot with women who are hardworking in their careers, but they hate their jobs. They have a toxic relationship pattern, and then they have a toxic work environment pattern where they're not getting their needs met in either one of these areas. The ultimate the consequences then can become I'm staying longer in relationship or environment scenarios that don't serve me. And in order to survive those scenarios, you keep having to cut off your intuition and cut off access to your emotions. And you feel your emotions in your body, you feel your intuition. They call it a gut instinct for a reason or a gut feeling for a reason. I just woke up and all of a sudden I knew it. I didn't know how I knew that, but I had this feeling. You feel that in your body. And what happens when you have trauma inside of a relationship scenario is that it makes you more analytical. It makes you more anxious. It makes you more outward focused. It makes you more, what could go wrong? When are we going to fight again? Am I going to lose my job? Is my boss going to yell at me again? Am I going to get a crappy email? You become more hyper focused on your environment and what could go wrong, and you become less focused on your intuition and what's happening in your body. And the more you do that, this creates a sense of emotional numbness. I speak with women who have survived so many bad relationships that by the time I talk to them, they just feel emotionally numb. They don't know how to feel anything really. And they've gotten so good at distracting themselves from their feelings that they, by being a workaholic, by taking on a lot of projects at home, by overextending themselves with friends and family, that they themselves are emotionally unavailable because they're not present for their own feelings. They're not present enough. They don't know how anymore because they've had to shut off that ability, that they don't know how to reconnect to their feelings. They don't know not only that, but they're afraid actually that if they allow themselves to feel lonely, or if they allow themselves to feel their shame or their guilt or their sadness, that they're going to get stuck there and that feeling is going to last forever. And it's that fear of, I'm going to feel lonely forever. I'm going to feel sad forever. I'm going to feel shame forever, that keeps her repelling the right partners, that keeps her repelling the right job environments. And that this fear of loneliness, of feeling ashamed, of feeling sad, also is what keeps her in unhealthy relationships. And oftentimes, when you have this pattern of ignoring red flags, it's never about I need to learn the signs and recognize them sooner. That's a logical thinking that when this pattern is usually something that's been with you for your whole entire life based in unhealed trauma. So you have to first and foremost overcome your trauma responses. And you need to do that in a way that's trauma informed. That's an evidence-based way. A lot of people aren't educated on this. They think, "Oh, I got out of a toxic relationship. I keep attracting the wrong people. I have anxiety now. Let me go to my psychiatrist and get prescribed an anti-anxiety medication. And then let me go to a therapist because I need to talk about and process what happened with my ex." And that's fine and good, and that can be helpful. But what I've noticed in the years that I've been doing this work is that those same women often go out and get into another emotionally unavailable or narcissistic relationship that's many times worse than the one before, because researching about it and talking about it don't heal your trauma. You need to use an evidence based method for rewiring your brain and your nervous system out of out of that pattern, out of that fear of rejection or abandonment, and you need to learn to how to communicate clearly. A lot of people with who ignore red flags and who are people pleasers are afraid to speak up and advocate for their own needs. They're afraid to set boundaries. They know they need to set boundaries logically, but they're not doing it because they are afraid of hurting the other person, or they're afraid of, if I break up with this person, then now what? Now it's going to be too hard for me to start over. They have a lot of limiting perceptions and beliefs. And unhealed trauma actually impacts the area of your brain that's responsible for speech. And specifically, speech when you feel triggered. When you feel triggered, it's not a safe time, according to your brain and your body, to talk about what you need. It's a time to either shut down, run away from the situation, start a big fight, or people please your way out of the scenario. And for most people who ignore red flags, they are often people pleasers. When you have this tendency and you get 40 or 50 years, 60 years into your life, and it's bleeding into your career, maybe you're staying too long in the wrong career, people then start self medicating. They might be going to therapy, but they're not really getting the results that they want. And they self medicate by distracting themselves from their feelings, because at this point, their feelings, they've ignored their feelings for so many years and have gotten so adept at ignoring their feelings and ignoring the truth that they're really feeling on the inside. Those feelings don't ever go anywhere. And so as you get older and get further and further in your life, the ways that you have to deal with that get a little bit more complicated and sophisticated. So a lot of times people become a workaholic. They become hyper busy. They become hyper focused on staying busy and keeping busy. And then they never allow themselves any time off to relax or have fun because they feel guilty, or they start feeling lonely when they don't have anything to do and they don't want to feel lonely. So they try to keep themselves busy, or they start feeling lonely and then they turn on Netflix, or they start feeling lonely and they turn on their phone and get on their apps or whatever they're doing. Some people choose to have a bottle of wine, drink a little bit too much in the evenings. Some people shop too much. So all of this becomes you have to find ways to let steam off the pressure cooker. And the more you do that, the more fearful it can become to actually turn inward and face your own trauma and learn to release it and heal it properly. And unfortunately, when I talk to women and the clients that I work with, their greatest fear is usually not attracting another narcissist or another unavailable partner. They know how to do that really, really, really well because they've been doing that their whole entire lives. The women that I work with and talk to most of the time are actually really terrified of being successful. They're really terrified of an amazing relationship. They're really terrified of having the income that they want every year, or having the dream business, or having the lifestyle that they want, because what they've been doing is so, in many ways, comfortable for them that doing it another healthy way for a while feels like a threat. It feels like the unknown. They often have people in their lives, that friends, family members, that relate to them as a victim, that relate to them as, yeah, dating sucks, online dating sucks, men suck, blah, 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 my job sucks. They relate by complaining, they relate by talking about what's not going right in their world. And so when they start changing, a lot of the women that I work with start realizing, oh, I need to let go of this friend, or I need to let go of this group of friends, or I need to set boundaries more. They start changing. And as they start changing and healing, they start realizing, oh, the people that I'm around aren't really that help that though these friends, these people that I'm in, this job environment that I'm in is a match for the old me. But now that I'm healing my trauma and I'm making empowering choices, I need to, they start finding healthier friends. They start setting healthier boundaries. So fear of success, fear of actually going for it, fear of what could my life be like is often the thing that holds people back the most. They might verbally talk about wanting it, but because their body is so used to ignoring red flags and self sabotaging, and their subconscious mind is so used to that programming, that actually going for it and putting themselves in a position where they could be rejected or abandoned by an emotionally healthy partner feels like too big of a threat. So ignoring red flags, just to kind of quickly recap here, ignoring red flags isn't just going to cost you in relationships. Ignoring red flags is often going to cost you your emotional health, your well, because if you ignore red flags and you stay too long in traumatizing relationships, it is almost guaranteed that you're going to doubt your potential and your abilities and doubt what's possible for you. I was listening to a podcast by one of the people from Shark Tank. I'm forgetting his name, but he said there are two of the most important things that you can realize as a human being in your time on this planet is number one, to decide uncovering what your purpose is, why you're here, what your line of work is, the purpose, your career, whatever, being a mom, whatever that is. And then the second most important choice that you can make is the person that you marry. Because the person that you marry, the person that you choose to be in a relationship with, will either elevate your life to a place that you've never would have been able to get to on your own by yourself, or it's going to destroy your life. And the price of the average divorce, if you add it all up, soup to nuts, is around $80,000 and 7 years of grief, according to research. Healthy, happy couples are 4 times wealthier than couples who are in toxic relationships, and even single women or single men, right? So, your ability to choose a partner that's healthy and make those empowering choices is going to then translate to how you're showing up in your job, what you think that you're capable of in terms of earning revenue and earning income, starting that business that you've been sitting on. Worked with somebody who'd been had a business idea for many, many, many years. And when we started working together, she was had a great title, CEO, great company, but was miserable in her current position. And she desperately wanted to get out and do something different. And she started her own business. When you start healing your trauma, you start healing all the ways that you hold yourself back. Not only that, you start healing what you're showing to your kids. A lot of the women that I work with feel guilty for the relationship modeling that they've modeled, the behavior that they've modeled for their kids. They start seeing their kids having a hard time with friends, having a hard time with anxiety, having a hard time. They don't even want to date. And they openly say, I saw what you went through with dad. I don't even want to do that. That's painful. And so your ability to heal your trauma impacts far more than just your romantic relationships. It touches every area of your life. And ignoring red flags doesn't just touch your romantic relationships, it touches every area of your life. So if you recognize that, ooh, I've been doing these things and I have been doing a lot of talk therapy, but there's some small voice inside of me that says, I don't know that it's helping, but it's not helping me get all the way where I want to go. And you've been doing a lot of research, you tried a lot of things on your own. If you know that you are successful when you put your mind to something and you're great at your career, but you're highly, highly mistrustful and you doubt your own abilities when it comes to attracting a healthy relationship, then we can help you overcome the unhealed complex trauma and the belief systems that are holding you back from having the love that you want in the future. And then ultimately becoming the type of woman that's a magnet for that relationship. When you doubt yourself, when you feel stuck, a lot of the women that, I work with, they come to me, they just feel emotionally stuck. It's been several months or even years since their most recent marriage or their toxic relationship. And they just feel like they're living a really small life and they don't feel confident in themselves. If that's where you are right now and you've already tried a lot of things, go to bethany.com, book a call with us, bethany.com/talk. You'll book that call. You'll be forwarded to a brief intake form that we ask you a series of questions on there that helps you get clear on where you're starting from and more importantly, what you want, where you're going. And then we're going to get on the phone with you And we're going to help you unpack all of the BS reasons why you think you're stuck, right? We're going to look at that really, really closely and get you massive clarity on where you are and what it's going to take to get you where you want to go. And if we can help you, given your certain criteria, the starting point of where you are in your journey, we'll talk about what that looks like to work together. So go to bethanydotson.com/talk. Couple of caveats here. This is for single women, single or divorced women. You are otherwise, other than your love life, you're pretty established in other areas of your life, meaning you've got a successful, well established career, you're educated, you're probably a super mom, you bend over backwards for your kids and put yourself last, and you've already invested and committed to talk therapy, but you're not getting the results that you want. And it's not translating to your love life, meaning you're still hate dating. You still feel really jaded. You still feel really mistrustful. You don't trust yourself. You don't trust men. You maybe go on a few dates and then decide right away, ooh, that person's a narcissist, or ooh, I don't want to talk to that person. And you're just feeling stuck. Then we can help you overcome that. Again, bethanydotson.com/talk. Have a beautiful day, everybody, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to today's show. A brand new episode drops each week. Be sure to click and subscribe. And remember, healing trauma, codependency, and your lifelong pattern in love does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance and evidence-based methods. And I've helped hundreds of incredible women from all over the country heal betrayal trauma and reclaim their confidence while falling wildly in love with their own lives and attracting healthy relationships. If you like what you heard today and you want to see if you're fit to work with us, go to bethanydotson.com/talk. That's bethanydotson.com/talk and book a call to speak with us today. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes and get you crystal clear on 3 things. The real reason you keep attracting dysfunctional relationships, even if you know better or even if you've done tons of work on yourself. What you really want in a relationship, how you want to feel emotionally every single day in your life, and what lifestyle changes you want to make. And then number 3, the exact strategy you need to be using to get there. Again, healing trust issues, codependency, and a lifelong pattern does not happen without expert guidance. We've helped hundreds of women across the country heal complex trauma, codependency, and have the healthiest relationships ever, both with themselves and with others. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk to book your call today. I'll see you on the next episode.